So we start this presentation with the introduction. Household appliances are common and essential equipment that needed to be in every houses, and it is useful for our comfort and also helps in doing our everyday house chores. One of these useful household appliances is a stand fan. Stand fan is used to increase the comfort level of humans by the means of distributing cool airs as well as creating sufficient ventilation in a certain area of the house. A standard stand fan consists of various simple as well as complex components, with each individual component distribute to its own function in making the stand fan working properly. Nowadays, stand fan comes in many shapes, size, and technology based on their specific application. One of the biggest brands in making a stand fan is Panasonic Holding Berhad. Besides stand fan, there are various home appliances manufactured under the brand of Panasonic Holding Berhad, which includes air conditioning, refrigerator, washing machine, and much more. Panasonic Holding Berhad is a well-known brand in Malaysia as it manufactures a wide range of different products, and their well-equipped R&D center was established in order to improve the overall product range in terms of quality, features, and also design. So next, we move on to the history of the company. Panasonic Holding Berhad was established in the year of 1965. So it starts as a small shop in Penang, which only sells electrical appliances and offer repair services, but it is now one of the leading home appliances manufacturer in Malaysia. Panasonic Holding Berhad is based in Penang. So the name Panasonic is from combining the word Pan, which is short for Penang, and Sonic, which is an audible reminder of the company's roots in selling radios back in the days. So the combined name has the meaning of sound of Penang.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Abdurrahman bin Ramlan and I will explain about design concept. Firstly, I will describe about what type of fan made by Panasonic. There are three types of fan that were manufactured by Panasonic, which are floor fan, table fan, and stand fan. Each fan has their own purposes, such as floor fan is used to provide ventilation and air circulation on the floor. For table fan and stand fan function similarly, where the stand fan provides more airflow and ventilation into a big room, while table fan is providing ventilation and circulation in small space or for only one person in the room. Next, I will illustrate more on design concept, which is about the chosen product for our analysis. Our team has chosen stand fan as a subject to demonstrate how all the components in the stand fans are manufactured in Panasonic's factory. The stand fan consists of 11 parts, which are front and rear grille, blade cap, grill nut, extension pole, oscillation knob, stand base, motor housing, control panel button, wiring cable, and rubber foot. Now, I will describe more on components in the stand fan. The first component is front and rear grille, which are used to protect the fan blades from any physical contact as well as the user. The material used for front and rear grille is stainless steel because it has high durability and high resistance to corrosion. The second component is blade. The blade is a paddle-shaped object that connected to the motor, which spins and creates airflow in a space. The next component is blade cap that connects the fan blade with the motor. The material for blade and blade cap is plastic due to its lightweight and cheaper than metals. The next component in the stand fan is grill nut, which is functioned similarly to blade cap and that connect with rear grill. The grill nut is generally made from plastic as such as blade cap. Furthermore, extension pole is the fifth component in the stand fan. Compared to other fans that I've mentioned before, this component is what makes the stand fan special. The user can adjust the height of fan according to their preferences. The material that is used for extension pole is carbon steel because it's high durability. In comparison, carbon steel is more durable than stainless steel, and stainless steel is generally expensive than carbon steel. Next is oscillation knob, which is mainly used for controlling the oscillation of the fan. The material for this component is the same as grill nuts, which is plastic. Moving on to the next component, which is motor housing. This component can cover the motor from any contact that can harm user while using it. The stand base is one of the components in the stand fan that is used to ensure that the stand fan stood up straight without falling to the ground. This component is used to contain the electric circuit and switches, which control the speed of fan as well as to turn it off, which is called control panel button. This three component is usually made from plastic because plastic is not expensive compared to metal. The last section of the design concept is I will describe about wiring cable that is used to connect the control panel with the motor. The wiring cable material is thermoplastic because it has high heat resistance and high toughness. The last component in the stand fan is rubber foot. This component's role is to make the stand fan not move and absorbing the vibration from the motor. The material for this component is rubber because it has high hardness and it has an excellent grip compared to other materials.
Next, we're gonna talk about manufacturing processes. There are many manufacturing processes involved for making a stand fan by Panasonic Malaysia. Selecting an exemplary manufacturing process based on material used will produce a good quality part. Firstly, the manufacturing process in making the stand fan is injection molding. This process contributes almost half of all the parts for making a stand fan. This is because the plastic material is used for making parts for stand fans such as cap, blade, nut blade, motor housing, oscillation knob, control box, switch, and stand cover. All these parts have the same process, which is injection molding. First step in injection molding, start by pouring pellet into the cup or hopper. After that, the plastic pellet will flow through the barrel. The screw on the barrel acts as an injector and will rotate to crush the pellet into smaller bits before being heated. The mold is injected with hot plastic. Then, the portion is allowed to cool for the appropriate amount of time needed to solidify the material after being poured into the mold. While the item cools, the barrel screw retracts, following additional plastic resin from the metal hopper to be drawn into the barrel. The heater bands keep the barrel at the proper temperature for the resin type. Lastly, the injector rod moves the ejector pins ahead when the mold opens and the component falls to the ground and get caught in the container beneath the mold. Compression molding is the following manufacturing process, and the component involved is a rubber foot. The rubber foot aims to keep the stand fan firmly planted on the ground. Compression molding, also known as a matching die molding, and one of the oldest industrial processes. Compression molding involves a few procedures where it starts by heating the thermoset resin to a specific temperature based on the material's melting point. The resin then liquefies and flows, following the shape of the mold cavity after being subjected to extreme pressure. The resin is then cooled before hardening into the final result. The component is then removed from the mold cavity and the curing process proceeds while the part cools to room temperature. This method is ideal for a wide range of industrial, commercial, and consumer items, from small components like rubber foot and seal piston to huge components like vehicle body panels. For the next manufacturing process is extrusion process. The power supply cable is made using this manufacturing process. Raw plastic material like granules, pellets, or powder are loaded into a hopper and then fed into a long heated cylindrical chamber called an extruder. It is moved through this chamber by a revolving screw. Some extruders can have either one or two revolving screws. The raw materials flow from the hopper down through the feed throat and onto a large spinning screw operating within a horizontal barrel. Not all materials have the same properties, so the raw material is processed by heating temperature specific to the type of raw material being passed through. At the end of the heated chamber, the molten plastic is forced through a small opening called a die to form the shape of the finished product. As the plastic is extruded from the die, it is fed into a conveyor belt for cooling. Cooling can happen by air or water. The process is similar to injection molding process, except that the melted plastic is forced through a die instead of into a mold. The die for an individual plastic profile is designed so that the plastic flows smoothly and evenly from the cylindrical profile of the extruder into the final profile shape. Consistency in this flow is critical to achieving an end product with integrity.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Fidaus bin Muhammad Rizwan and I will be presenting about manufacturing processes that involve metal as their material. The first manufacturing process is drawing process. This process is used to make extension tube and stand base. To make an extension tube, a mandrel is placed at the center of the tube. As the hollow steel tube is pushed inside the die, the mandrel will determine the inner diameter of the tube. This will produce extension tube. Meanwhile, stand base does not have mandrel as it is solid without any cavity inside it. The second manufacturing process is wire forming process. The material used in this process is metal wire and it is used to make front and rear fan guide. Wire forming process involves a set of rollers which will shape the metal wire from straight to bend shape. As the wire is shaped, a robotic welder will weld the wire into place so that the wire will stay in their designated spot. There are 5 main components of wire forming machine, which is coil feeder, which will feed the metal wire, straightener to ensure the wire does not have any defects, chamfering to eliminate any sharp edges, bending head to bend the wire, and cutting to cut the wire. The third manufacturing process is thread rolling process. Material used in this part is carbon steel wire and it is used to make the screw. Steel wire will be cut into small pieces and a heading or stamping machine will create the screw head. By using a reciprocal or cylindrical movement, the thread of the screw will be created using a thread rolling process. The last manufacturing process is motor manufacturing process. During our research, we find that Panasonic uses DC motor to power their fan. DC motor combine a lot of manufacturing processes to make a single DC motor. For an example, manufacturing processes such as winding, stamping, hardening, machining or cutting is used to make a DC motor. The finished DC motor is then be installed inside the motor housing.
Thank you for the previous presenter. My name is Nurul Wajihah binti Muhammad. Now, I would like to present about the product defect. Firstly, blister defect. Blister are an injection molding defect that present as a raised defect on the surface of a molten part. A blister is a raised area on the plastic surface. It is generally the product of too much heat on the tool or by the inadequate cooling or venting. For instance, if the injector has a flow pattern issue, it might melt the resin at once, allowing air bubble to enter the molten resin. A hot runner tool might also suck air into the die because of area constriction, slowing the passage of the resin. Where on the finishing good in plastic, the recommended steps are make the mold injection speed slower, reduce molding cycle, and or reduce the flow resistance. Optimize the structure of plastic and avoid having areas where the plastic part is too thick or too thin. Next, fractography defect. Based on the picture, the fracture position of the broken blade can be identified. The fracture could be seen to have occurred between the blade avoid and the blade rod. The macroscopic properties of all the fracture surfaces were remarkably comparable. It is seen to consist of two separate low magnification areas, a semi-elliptical and smooth part that is normally oriented to the blade axis and present as a macroscopically brittle appearance, and a rougher and more ductile outer region. To overcome this problem, it is significant to ensure that there is no tensile overload on the blade. Lastly, bearing defect. The bearing in a fan motor system wear out over time and might cause operating troubles in rotating machinery. Common issues with bearing include noise, excessive clearance, and seizure in extreme circumstances. Bearing should be the primary maintenance item to avoid unforeseen downtime. That's all from me. Thank you.